I know you can feel it. That subtle tingle in the back of your neck. A voice calls. Do you dare to answer? Well, if you bought the Battle Pass, you actually don't have a choice. Ranked. The game mode that feeds off of toxicity and the tears of other Brawlhalla players. Sometimes it's kinda crazy to think about that there's a percentage of Brawlhalla's player base that are casual players, meaning they only play these game modes, and custom rooms. Maybe not experimental. I mean, let's be honest, that game mode can be just as sweaty as ranked. But that group of players are literally the only percentage that goes outside. But if there was any season where BMG tried to remove that percentage of players, it would be this current season. Well, I guess by the time this comes out, the last season. I mean, just look at the Podium Missions for the Battle Pass. I know I talked about this already, but that's enough to turn any normal person insane. And this is just for the last upgrade of the Podium. You had to win 100 ranked games before that just to get to this mission. Also take into consideration that these have to be wins, and you'll probably lose around 50 to 40% of your games, and yeah, you better say goodbye to the outside world. But for some reason, I don't really hate ranked as much as I used to. In fact, I don't think I hate it at all. I don't know, maybe I've just been playing this game for too long, but that doesn't mean I don't get tilted every so often. This game mode is far from perfect. Now for those of you who don't play ranked, here's how it's supposed to go. First, you start in bronze and you work your way up by beating other players around the same elo. As you get to that threshold point to rank up, you'll usually fight a player that has already ranked up to that point. In that case, a silver player, but they're usually on the lower side of silver, so it's closer to your elo. This pattern continues until you get to diamond. Now what happens after that? I'll explain when we get there. Now here's what actually happens. Everything seems normal until you get to gold. This is where elo hell starts for most people. Think of it as the backrooms of ranked. It's just a constant cycle of winning and losing, gaining elo, losing elo, and just when you thought you made it out, nope, here comes another player with 300 more elo than you ready to gatekeep you from progressing to the next tier. Or even worse, you'll lose to someone who's way better than you but has less elo. These are known as Smurfs. Smurfs are people who play on alt accounts to purposely match with lower rated players. Why do people have Smurf accounts? Well, it could be a number of things. The fear of losing elo on their main account, maybe they want to play twos with their friend that has lower elo, or they could be stuck in elo hell themselves and want to feel better about it by through-stalking lower elo players. But either way, whether you agree with smurfing or not, it makes people paranoid, because now whenever people are stuck at a certain elo, they'll blame it on Smurfs instead of trying to fix their mistakes. Now I'm not saying Smurfs don't exist, but you can't blame a lack of progression solely on matching against Smurfs. I mean, even if you know someone is smurfing, it's kind of hard to prove it, and even then, I don't think BMG bans Smurfs, so unless somehow you're matching up against Smurfs every single game, it's not something you can really blame progression on. Don't get me wrong though, it is annoying. Now if BMG blesses you and you're lucky to make it out of the ranked backrooms, and you get into Diamond, well for some, their journey ends here. But for the few that are willing to keep going, we'll see how long that lasts. Once you get to this point, the elo difference becomes smaller, but the skill gap increases. For example, a 2000 average rated player, their skill is way different than a 2100 rated player, even though their elo gap is only 100 elo. Not only that, but get used to matching up with the same players, because you're going to be seeing them a lot. And depending on how high elo you get, you might only be able to play ranked at certain times of the day, because sometimes you might not match with anyone. When you look at the ranked leaderboards and you see the people at the top, it's not necessarily an accurate representation of skill. It more becomes a game of who can grind the longest, because the amount of elo you win at that point is like 1 to 5 points, but if you lose, that's like 30 points. So you can see why most people look at power rankings instead, because that's based off of tournament placements. But not all games use ranking systems like Brawlhalla. In fact, there are many different types of ranking systems out there. Dota 2 uses MMR, and they still have different ranks like Brawlhalla, but there never is really a ranked reset, only rank recalibration, which is optional, and you can choose to recalibrate at any time once per season. League of Legends doesn't really tell people how their system works, so people aren't able to exploit it, but they do have an interesting way of rewarding you for being dedicated to one player. In Brawlhalla, you can see how much elo you've gained with every legend, and at the bottom, it shows which legend you've gained the most elo with. However, this is separate from your overall elo. You don't really gain anything from having high legend elo, there's no reward for it, but in League of Legends, they have a letter grading system that gives you a grade at the end of each match to show how well you did. The higher your grade, the more champion points you get towards your character, which then eventually can give you rewards. So it's kind of a neat incentive to do well and also stick to that character. Honestly though, it's the least they can do to reward you for playing League of Legends anyways.
The trash! Fix the the game! It sucks playing this shit! And I'm addicted! So I can't quit!
Now when we look at Brawlhalla's ranked system, the complaints I've made so far are things that all ranked systems deal with. There will always be Smurfs, and there isn't really any perfect ranked system. But there is one Brawlhalla specific issue that I can think of off the top of my head, and that is the rematch feature. This feature is really buggy. For starters, there's a color issue that occurs when you rematch a player. Sometimes it shows a completely different color than what it previously was. The game also lets you cancel a rematch after you've already agreed to one, even when you're about to load into the game. Oh, and also you can do this. Something that people don't realize is that there's also a social byproduct that is created because of these ranked tiers. People will listen to you more if you're a diamond, and on the other side, it's the reason why gold players are made fun of a lot. Since that's where most of Brawlhalla's player base is, it means that their opinions get voiced the loudest. Remember the Yellow Man Bad era and the Scythe petition stuff? Yeah. So, how do we fix this? Well, for starters, if you want to reduce the amount of Smurfs, force new players to do placement matches, maybe around 10 or so. This would not only make it longer for Smurfs to get into ranked, but the placement mechanic will put them straight to where they should be, ruining the purpose of creating a Smurf account in the first place. But at the same time, this could lead to a lot of boosted accounts, but honestly you can only boost to a certain point before it becomes inefficient. But even then, BMG could implement a system to flag accounts with suspicious win trading patterns, because if you see that a certain account keeps losing to the same player and it's like 3 stocks only, that's obviously win trading, and they could flag it easily. Also, the rematch option should automatically lock you into a game as soon as both players agree to the match. This will prevent last second disconnects and also button spamming. It would also make sense to automatically force a game 3 if the loser of the first match wins the second. And last but not least, I think that tournament striking should be enabled for ranked, or at least make it an option in the settings. That way you and your opponent can decide which map you guys want to play on and not have to play on a random map, like how it currently is. Even stage voting would work, because then you and your opponent could choose a stage and it would just be random between which stage gets chosen. I feel like that idea is still better than having just a random selected map, because yes, you can like kind of condense it to tournament only maps, but I feel like some sort of stage banning or stage voting would be a lot better for ranked. Hopefully we can see some of these changes soon, but until then, we'll have to stick with what we have. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. How many of you guys play ranked? I'm actually curious to see if there's any casual players that watch my videos. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also join the Discord if you want to stay updated on new videos or when new streams come out. And if you really like my content and you want to support the channel, link to the Patreon will be in the description. As always, I hope you guys have a great day. Peace.